Welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. This is episode 16, and my name is Chris, and I'm here with a special interview, my first interview, with Lindsay Hodge, who happens to also be my wife of 9 years.
8. It's only been 8.
8. Feels like 9, but it's 8 years. So we are going to be talking today about her book, How to DIY Anything is the title of it. You can find out more about it through our website at havenhomestead.com, release date, any of our past episodes on the podcast, and also we'll talk about where you can find out where her website is. So let's get into it. Lindsay?
Hello.
Thank you for coming on the show.
It's always a pleasure.
It's usually like, Lindsay, stop banging the things while I'm recording. But
I like interrupting your podcast. It's fun.
Yeah, you're in on the show. You just don't know it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now I know it.
So we'll get into the interview here. So how did you become a writer?
Becoming a writer has really always been about helping my family to live sustainably. It's about having a small income to help support whatever Chris brings in. I don't know how far back you want to go. I've been writing forever, since I was a kid, but I didn't think about doing it professionally until we moved here to Washington. I had taken some news writing courses. We just moved. I was looking for some way to earn money that was just kind of part-time and didn't require me to get a babysitter. And I was driving past the newspaper, the Chronicle here in town, and I walked in looking to see if I could be a photographer, part-time photographer, and they asked me to be a journalist instead. So I started writing for the newspaper, and then it was just really difficult. I would have had to get a sitter if I kept doing it, and so I started doing freelance writing, and then it wasn't really a sustainable model either, so I started writing books, and I just do it in my free time.
So it's kind of like a hobby / passion.
Yeah.
Sort of.
That pays a little bit sometimes. Like, I think I earned $10 on my kids' books this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Don't spend it all in one place.
That's easy to do.
So let's talk about this new book you have coming out, How to DIY Anything.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us what's it about.
So it's an adult nonfiction. It's supposed to be inspirational. It's about having useful tools in your mindset toolbox. I wrote it with the intention of empowering people to become better DIYers. So in the book, I talk about the 5 most essential tools that I think everyone should work on developing. And it's got some DIYer profiles, so you've got examples of other DIYers who are doing it either professionally or as a hobby. I think that's it.
What's the length of your book?
Well, it's a pretty short book. It's a nonfiction, and I didn't want to go on forever. So it's, if you're thinking in word counts, it's about 12,000-ish words. When you think about books, it's a novel is typically 60 to 80,000 words. So mine's about 13,000 words.
How many pages is that?
I don't know.
Is there pictures?
There are some pictures. Not many.
Good. It's hard for me to read books that don't have pictures.
Oh, I'm going to publish an audiobook just for you.
Oh, thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah, and anyone else who doesn't like to read but wants to read my book, you can hear my book instead. But that won't be for until after the book is published on Amazon. So.
Yeah, I'm an audiobook sort of guy. Books on tape sort of guy. I can do it while I'm driving and working and stuff, so I like to do that.
So yeah,
my Audible library is quite...
Go ahead.
Is quite large. All right, well, when should we plan on seeing this book coming out?
The book will be published for beta readers in the next 2 weeks, and will be published for the public by June 1st.
So everybody can get their hands on it June 1st.
Right. If you want to get a free copy and be a beta reader, you should sign up on my Facebook page so that you can get a free copy and help me out make it better. Just have to tell me whether there are a lot of typos.
They need to
not.
review it, so that's good. That's good. What's your Facebook?
It's facebook.com/Lindsay the Writer. LindsayThewriter.
Lindsay with an A, the writer. Lindsay the Writer. All right.
There's a little button on there that says sign up. That's where you would click sign up and put in your email address so I can email you the link to the free book.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good. That's cool. So if you want to be a part of it, dear listener, then that's how you do it. And you can be part of the... are you going to put anything in the credits about beta readers or anything?
Yeah,
like that?
any of my beta readers that want their names published just have to send me an email with notes that you took on my book and improvements I could make, and you'll be thanked in the credits on the credit page when I publish it on Amazon.
Cool.
Amazon, iBooks, Kobo. I'm going to publish it wide.
Cool. You could be... So, dear listener, you could be famous in a book. All right. Well, since this podcast is all about sustainable living, and that's kind of what we aim for here on the Haven Homestead podcast and at the Haven Homestead, how does this book tie into homesteading and sustainable living?
Well, everyone who wants to live a sustainable life needs to be able to DIY something that's necessary for life at some point. And not everyone who comes to homesteading or sustainable living is skilled at DIYing things. So this book is going to help you get your mind in a place where you can really DIY anything. Once you have the right mindset tools, you can do anything. If you put your mind to it, you've heard that phrase, you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it.
All you gotta do is put your mind to it, knuckle down, buckle down, and do it, do it, do it.
That's it.
That's
it. So pretty
much the best song of all time, might I add.
So, if you are interested in living a sustainable life, you're going to want to do things for yourself. And you have to be able to put your mind to it. So you can do it.
Well, on a sustainable homestead, being sustainable is about doing things for yourself. Mm-hmm. And
not running to the first consumer-driven marketplace.
Right. If you have to go to the store all the time, then you're not very sustainable. If you can't grow your own groceries, that's one of the main things I think with sustainable is growing some food for yourself.
Right.
Or being more sustainable. That's really what this is all about. Is not everybody's going to go from zero to sustainable instantly, but they need to build slowly and crawl before they can walk, so to speak. So I think that this is an important mindset to be able to try to do new things. Right. If you haven't raised chickens before, I think it's important to try it. If you haven't, or any animals, or if you haven't gardened before, if you haven't planted anything before, I think that being the sustainable mindset is essential to having a successful homestead or just a successful life in general, because there's lots of things you'll need to be able to do yourself. And trying them is the hardest part, I think. Starting it is the hardest part. I know with this podcast we talked about starting it for years. A year and a half before we actually started it. I think I had podcast ideas, episode ideas, and written down
We made lots of lists.
For a long time.
So it's about having the courage to do those things. A DIY mindset is about being courageous and being willing to try new things. But there's more to courage than just being brave. So
Don't you talk about that in your book?
I do. Yeah. It's kind of the wrap-up chapter is the chapter on courage, and how all of the rest of the 5 tools that I talk about, let's see if I can list them. The first tool I talk about is having a positive attitude. The second tool I talk about is having a desire to learn, cultivating a desire to learn. It's really important. You have to want to learn something in order to be able to learn something. There was a quote that I use in my book that is, experience fails to teach where there is no desire to learn. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how many times you do something. If you don't want to learn it, you're not going to learn it. You have to want it. We
had a friend so he kept on saying, I don't know how to do this, but he wasn't really actively trying to learn how to do this, whatever it was. And I think that the mindset of wanting to learn and then just trying it, even if you fail, I mean, you're going to fail and that's okay, but just having the desire to try is paramount, I think, super important.
Right, and actually there's a chapter in my book that I think is called It's Okay to Fail. So that's the next after we talk about a desire to learn, I talk about how it's okay to fail and that those failures are actually essential to your success. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of different reasons why a person would fail, and the first is that they failed to try because they didn't want to try. They failed to give it their best. So they failed on the project. The second reason to fail is that you haven't had enough skills yet. You haven't learned well enough yet. That mindset, that you tried, you're trying hard, you're going to fail, but it's okay because you're going to learn from that failure. That's okay. That's the best way to be, I think, is to be willing to fail, be willing to mess up, be willing to make big mistakes and fail gloriously. You got to be willing to try.
If you have a pair of sunglasses close by, you could put those on so you look cool while you're failing.
Oh yeah. The last tool that I talk about, I think it's the last one. Have I talked to... Oh no, I haven't talked about this one. So the 2 other tools that I talk about are being determined and having discipline. That's one tool. I haven't come up with a name for that yet, but it's something like gumption. Having gumption. You gotta have gumption. And you hear that a lot in old Hollywood movies. Gumption, an actress having gumption.
No guts, no glory.
No guts, no glory. Gumption is more about being determined and being disciplined. Oh. Being determined to do whatever you're gonna do, and then having the discipline to stick to it. The persistence to stick to it when it gets hard. So DIYing's not easy. It's as simple as picking up a project and doing it, but it's not easy. Lots of little things will get in the way of you trying to do things for yourself. But if you are determined and disciplined enough to do it, then you'll do it.
Well spoken.
Thank you. Last one I talk about is self-loyalty and being able to celebrate your successes. I think it's really important to be able to celebrate your successes, just even if it's little. Remember when I was making this curtain here in the office? Every time I did something, I was like, hey, look, everybody, it's awesome. And you would go, yeah, it's awesome. Good job, Lindsay. That's the kind of celebration I mean when I talk about celebrating your successes as you go. I think that's important. And then being self-loyal is not just self-doubt. Self-doubt is saying, I don't know if I can do this. I'm unsure, that you're doubting your abilities. But self-loyalty is doubting your innate makeup. It's like saying, I'm never going to be good enough for that. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough, so I'm not going to try. So it's kind of more extreme than self-doubt. But if you can be loyal to yourself, and you see it a lot when people are